Hello, my lovely ones. We are working on coloring pencil, this next project, and our subject matter is going to be landscape. So you are going to create a picture of a place, an image of a place. And these happen to be my favorite things to hang in my house. I normally don't put portraits except of my own children or my family in my house. I don't normally put still lifes in my house. I put landscapes in my house. These are places that I want to go, places that I appreciate, places that I love. That said, your next project is going to be that. But we are going to be using one of my more favorite mediums. I love working in coloring pencil. I love it because I'm a little bit of a control freak, and this allows me to control what it is that I want to share with people. Now, the problem with the problem with coloring pencils is that we were taught when we were younger, hey, if you want to make a nice coloring pencil area, it should all look like this, where it's colored really light and it's outlined and that kind of stuff. What I want to push you guys to do is to take it and make your coloring pencil look almost like paint. You can push your coloring pencil that far. And different products, the majority of you probably have some sort of coloring pencil that we can get at the grocery store. Crayola, I think they have Rose Art. They have several varieties like that. Because of the coloring book craze, people have really kind of upped their coloring pencil game, and they're slightly better quality than they used to be. But things to know, why is a Prismacolor so much more money than a Crayola coloring pencil? A Crayola coloring pencil and a Prismacolor pencil are made in generally the same way. So really, truly, why are they different prices? So we have both of our pencils here, just to give you an idea. And you can tell that they're both a pencil. You can tell that they both have a colored end to them. Now, what happens with Prismacolors and the higher end coloring pencils, there is more pigment. So there is more of the substance that creates the actual color and less of the binding agent. So in a coloring pencil's case, it is pigment and it's wax. Not unlike a crayon in some ways. The Crayola coloring pencils have a higher amount of the binding material and less pigment because pigment is what costs more money. So Prismacolors and the more expensive kinds of, even the higher end quality Crayola pencils have more pigment and they have less wax in them. And then the lower end, cheaper ones have more wax and less pigment. Now, a good artist can get a really good product out of either one of these. I liken this to, if you're going to go build a house and you have a hammer, here's your hammer. It is your basic tool. You can do a whole lot of stuff with that hammer. However, if you have other tools, it makes the job a little bit easier. So these in some ways make your work a little bit easier, but they're not necessarily the best thing in the world, especially if you're not going to do art after this. If you're not going to ever do art again, let's say you really don't like coloring pencils, please don't invest in these. Just get these. You can do the job with these that you need done. But if you decide you really, really like the act of coloring and it is something that you find pleasurable, it is something that calms you down or whatever, by all means, consider purchasing and investing in a larger set, a higher quality set. So I'm going to set these aside momentarily, and I'm going to demonstrate with the Crayola pencils. I put on your list to try to get a set of Crayola pencils or a set of coloring pencils that has the most amount of colors in it. The reason for this is that you have less mixing to do. You can actually select the proper color for the proper job. So here somebody has left behind a giant, I think this is probably the box of 50, and they're the Crazy Art brand. Once again, they're totally fine. You could use this if you want to, but I'm going to demonstrate with the one that the majority of you have, and the rest of you can figure out as we go along what we're going to do. Okay, so I started this landscape. This is a little bit more abstract. You can see where I'm still kind of basing it off of the actual photo. But I'm trying to enhance what I see on here. And I see some of this green, and so I've made it really green on here just because I think it's going to be more fun. And I apologize for that noise in the background. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to start working on these areas here. So we have our background, we have our horizon line right along here. We have our midground. It establishes the setting and where we're at. And these flowers right here that are a little blurrier and farther off in the distance, these are all part of the midground as well. And then we have our foreground down here with our giant flowers. I have penciled in really lightly, I don't know if you can see this or not, but like little areas where I'm like, I want that to be a flower, I want this to be a flower. I've laid out what my picture's going to be. I also started messing around with the sky. The sky here is really pale, and I just thought it was going to be more fun to go ahead and just kind of build in crazy colors. The project, let's see, I started doing these, and they're kind of fun. And I think I'll do probably another pillowy. When I started coloring this, I was using the Prismacolors, and so there are colors in the sky that I don't have. But I'm going to try to show you, let's say, this other kind of cloud. And it's just going to go right off the top of the page. And I want to bring in some of that dark purple that I started laying in over here. So I'm coloring hard. I'm bringing that dark purple in. I can color side to side, and that's going to give me kind of a streaky texture, which might not be a bad thing. And I'm kind of pressing a little bit harder in some areas. Some things to know about coloring pencils. If your paper is grooved, so if you've gone through and you have colored, let's say you had a piece of paper laying on top of this and you drew on top of it, and your pencil lines pushed through and you had a groove set into your paper here, you're going to actually see that groove come up. So this is streaky right here from where something grooved it. It could also be where the coloring pencil itself got really kind of low and I was coloring in that wood, kind of scratched a mark in there. You can use those to actually enhance what you're doing. So I draw animals sometimes with coloring pencils, and I will go through, they have white whiskers. And what I'll do is I will take a stylus, and that doesn't have any color on it, it's just a wood like pointed thing that looks like a pencil, and I will draw into my paper, and that paper will go ahead and like it'll leave a groove in there, and then I go through and I'll color on top of it, and so you'll see the groove and it stays white. So I can use that trick to really benefit what it is that I'm doing. So here I'm going to go ahead and color in here, and I'll work on this for a couple of minutes. So I was doing the dark color, and now I'm doing the light color on top of it, and I'm blending these colors and getting some interesting things happening in the sky. Is my sky really going to look like this? Probably not. Is that okay? I see no problem with that. I think it's kind of fun for us to be able to imagine what it is that we want to imagine. And I think that's something that our very lovable Bob Ross could totally get behind. And quite frankly, if you do look at the sky a lot, and if you do notice that, you notice that the weather changes, and clouds really too do strange things. And as I get older, I've noticed more and more often just weird moments when the sky's just, the colors in it are not really what I'm used to. Back in the spring, there was a night when the sky colors were actually, like, they were lime green, and I have no idea what was going on. My brother's a pilot. My middle brother's a pilot, and he sends me, like, he'll tell me that he has seen, they were flying through into California the other night, and everything was glowing orange, but not like pretty sunset orange, but just downright creepy. He's like he said he felt he was flying into some post-apocalyptic world or something. It was just so eerie and so strange that the color that was there was not the normal. And clearly, it's the atmosphere's picking up what's happening with the wildfires. So I'm just playing with this and allowing kind of my colors to mix and to do some fun things. And I think I like this area right here just a little bit brighter. My white coloring pencil, a lot of times these get totally ignored, and they are fantastic at actually blending the colors. So up here I have kind of the sketchy thing happening. I can go in here with my white coloring pencil and I can blend all those colors together. So that's what I was doing down here. I was using my turquoise, and then I was putting greens and yellows and different colors on top of them to kind of build them up. This in my picture starts to get darker, so I might take my purple and kind of lay it down here, and I used reds and oranges. I even used some yellows in here. And I'm trying to fill in those little white areas. So it doesn't matter if I'm using Crayola pencils. One thing to note, I just did this and it just became apparent that I probably should talk about it real quick. I'm trying to purposely make some of these rocks look like they're coming forward and some of these rocks to look like they're going back. And so along this edge that I've created here, and this edge kind of reflects kind of where this crack happened here. I'm filling this in darker, so I'm putting a darker value. And then I'm going to use my white, and I'm going to come in here on this side, and I'm going to pop that out. Anytime, lighter colors and warm colors, so red, orange, and yellow, they come at you. They appear to your eye to be closer. And then darker colors recede. They get pushed back into space. So not only are you playing with the idea of space or value on this picture, you're also playing with the idea of space. And you just did your vocabulary words. And so these tie right into those elements of art. So we're using colors, we're using the idea of space and creating something that looks like it's in the distance and stuff that looks like it's up close to us. We're using values in creating light and dark areas. On this picture, I started kind of putting in colors really, really light. And what I'm doing now that I have kind of my idea laid out, I can go back in and fill it in. The great thing about starting light and then going back in and filling in is that I can still change it. Like if I wanted to add some of these orange pieces over here, this isn't so dark that I could not put my orange coloring pencil right on top of it and it be okay. And when you start to overlap those colors, they just become really interesting and really fun. Definitely take a look at the assignment and you'll see a lot of different samples and examples. I would very much encourage you to work really, really dark if you can. We are working on paper that is 18 by 12 by 18. So it's as wide as the other paper for the last project. It's a little bit wider than a piece of copy paper that's tall. So a piece of copy paper is 8.5 by 11. So this is 12, and then it's 18 this way. So it's double the size of a piece of copy paper. I have this paper upstairs or up by the front office door, and had told you back last week or the week before when you came up to get paper for the books, you might want to go ahead and get paper for this project too. But this is where we're going next, and I'm going to unleash this video this week, but you don't need to get started on it until Monday unless you want to get started on it. This will take you some time, and I want to encourage you to go ahead and take your time. Really do a good job coloring this, and let this kind of be your zen. You know, let this be kind of that moment where you can just kind of calm down a little bit from the stress of the day. And that's where we're at. Hopefully this helped give you some ideas and let you know kind of what to do and where to go with these. Twistables will kind of work with this too.
They run out pretty fast, so that's just kind of a fair warning. And there we go. Make sure that you have your pencil sharpener, and we'll talk to you later.